Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday's ESPN FC Live. I'm Mark Donaldson. Full house today. Steve Nicol, Janusz, Michallik, Miguel, Echegaray. Later on in the show, we're going to look back at last night's Manchester City Real Madrid tie, examine what went wrong for City, what went right for Real Madrid, and look ahead to next week's second leg. But we're going to start with the Premier League title race. Stevie Nicol, Everton, Liverpool today, last ever Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. Would a Liverpool win and a 9-point lead over an Arsenal side that have just lost Kai Havertz for the rest of the season pretty much mean the title is headed back to Merseyside?
Not quite. Cool your jets a little bit. It would be a fantastic lead, and certainly it would go in the category of, well, it's Liverpool's to lose, which it probably is anyway. So yeah, a victory against Everton wouldn't cement anything, but it would certainly put them in a great position. And whilst you still have games to play, while other teams can still catch you if you slip up, then you can't get carried away. You've got to concentrate, particularly in the Premier League, on the next game, and then the next one, and then the next one. And don't look too far ahead, that's for sure.
I could have scripted that answer. That was like you were back with the New England Revolution, or you just knew exactly what you were going to say. Give them a lot, but tell them absolutely nothing. Okay, Janusz, Michallik. If they go 9 points clear, Stevie's just said Liverpool would have to slip up and the rest would have to catch them up. So with Arsenal without Havertz and the others kind of just cutting each other's throats, if Liverpool maintain what they're doing right now, how can they be caught?
They can't. Stevie, fair play. I mean, that was a definition of sitting on the stands, which I'm known for as well from time to time. And you have to say that, with this much season left, obviously next 5 games are going to decide that, right? Because there's a long break for Liverpool in the Premier League after that. I think it's like a month or something. But look, nobody's catching Liverpool. It's just not going to happen. I mean, if it happens, it would be the biggest collapse in I don't want to say in history, because somebody in the stands or online is going to tell me that there were bigger ones in terms of points, but there's no team that comes even close to what Liverpool has to offer right now. Not even close. So today is going to be difficult. It's a derby. I would have liked to play that derby at a given time. Remember, it was like the 1:30 kickoff when Everton were terrible and Liverpool were great form. Yep. Night game tonight, perhaps the last time that those two meet in this stadium, which is significant, of course. So you don't want to overlook that. But regardless, nobody's catching Liverpool.
Okay, let's change this a little bit around LME. Say Everton beat Liverpool today, which is possible. They've done it before and they're on a good run of form. Then it would still be a 6-point lead and everyone's played the same number of games. Who's the team that's catching Liverpool if Liverpool don't win the title?
Well, it has to be Arsenal. But to your point at the beginning of the show, Kai Havertz's injury throws a lot out the window here. We've gone on and on about the fact that they needed to act in January. They didn't. So I'm worried about that Kai Havertz situation. Our producer, Rob Moore, was telling us that the last attacker they bought in the last 2 windows was Raheem Sterling. He's not exactly the answer. And Arsenal, they did fantastic against Manchester City. There's no doubt about it. But in order to catch up to Liverpool, who, by the way, have a game in hand before this game, of course, 6 points ahead, in order to catch up to them, Arsenal has to be perfect. And, they do have to play Liverpool later on as well. So there is that component as well. But Arsenal has to be perfect. They're also still in the Champions League, so there's that to worry about as well. And they have to hope that Liverpool falter. Now, when you look at Liverpool's remaining schedule, there are some tricky fixtures. I mentioned Arsenal. They have to play Newcastle, Aston Villa as well. There's some tricky, but to me, I'm with Janusz. I just think this is Liverpool's Premier League title to lose, Arsenal being the closest. But with Kai Havertz gone, oh, man, this is tough.
Well, the key for Liverpool is keeping everybody fit. That's the bottom line. If they keep everybody fit, then I'm with the boys. But you got to keep everybody fit. So that's why you can't be so confident and so forthright saying if it's over and all these things, because it's just not. I mean, it's the oldest cliche in the book, but hey, it's not over until it's over. And until such times, then you got to keep your head down and keep doing the job and not get carried away.
Because you're going to tell me about the time when Everton were well clear of Liverpool and Liverpool managed to catch them when you were playing.
Exactly. We were 11 points behind with, 15 games to play. 10 points, something like that.
Yeah,
we won the last 12 and drew one. And
Steve,
won the title by a point. Now, and again, and it's when it's happened before, you can't take your eye off the ball. You can't. Otherwise, you will slip up.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that can derail Liverpool would be literally Salah going off, and even then, I mean, they can sort of manage, but one player that's irreplaceable, in my opinion, in that. And you look at Arsenal, who's going to be scoring goals? I mean, Gabriel Jesus out, Kai Havertz is out right now, Bukayo Saka still not ready to come back just yet. So you're talking about being points behind and being absolutely perfect in all these competitions. How is that possible? I mean, Arsenal can manage that for a game, maybe two, but over the course of the time, the quality players that they're missing, it's just going to be impossible. So, I mean, that would have to be something, and we know City, I mean, obviously injuries and lack of form. There just isn't anybody that can, even with an injury or two, can cause problems. It seems that way.
You lose Salah, as he said, and you lose Van Dijk. Something happens to them.
Yeah,
that's a different ballgame. So that's why I'm cautious.
Yeah, and understandably so. Look, I kind of knew what the response was, and it's fair. But I'm not sure what your response is going to be to this one, because you've seen all Liverpool games this season under Arne Slot. What's impressed you most about him and the team this season, Stevie?
I think what's impressed me about the team is the control that they've had in probably 90% of the games. I mean, they've really been in charge of everything. There have been patches where they haven't quite controlled things, and teams have put them under some pressure. But in general, they have absolutely 100% pretty much been in control of their own destiny. It's about taking your chances. They've created chances in every game. They just haven't taken them. Okay, we won't talk about the Plymouth one, but again, 90% of the games, control, creating chances, and of course, Mo Salah scoring goals for fun as well. In terms of Slot, I tell you what, his decision making has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to include Plymouth because, in my opinion, Liverpool should have their eye on the Premier League. That should be the focus. And if that means playing your second string and losing, then so be it. And if they beat Everton, then in my opinion, it will have been worth it. So yeah, but Slot, every decision he's made, his substitutions, he's just been spot on. And I like his calm. He's got a calm demeanour. Nice calm demeanour.
When you played the European Cup, there were nowhere near as many games as there are in the Champions League now. Obviously, you still had the opportunity to win the quadruple back then. But, hey, times have moved on, and you can understand it. Look, if he wanted to get something from that Plymouth game, if he felt that there might have been any issue whatsoever, he would have stacked his bench with talent. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Is that Haggis in the background, your doggy, Stevie?
It is.
It's maybe lunchtime for him. LME, the way that Liverpool have played this season, do you understand why Arne Slot did what he did with the team selection at Plymouth? Simply because they're already in the League Cup final. So that's probably priority 3. Priority 1 and 2, certainly Premier League and Champions League. So the FA Cup's 4th. Do you think when he looks back, if they win 2 or 3 trophies, you'll not even care about the FA Cup? Or do you think it was a mistake?
No, they don't care. Liverpool fans don't care. And what Janusz said earlier, like it's the fact that this Merseyside derby had to be rescheduled, it's not convenient because of this specific reason. But I'm with the boys here. Like Liverpool want to win the Premier League title. That's it. And as well to your point, the fact that they're in the Carabao Cup final, that becomes another priority. So I understand why he did it. Now, I will say this though, and this is coming from Arne Slot. He did say it was an unacceptable performance. And I agree with that, because let's begin with those words. Because when you look at that squad against Plymouth, and Plymouth worked their hearts out, Katic was an unbelievable warrior. He lost a tooth in that game, for Christ's sake, right? So it was just a tremendous performance from Plymouth. But it was unacceptable, as Slot said, because yes, they rotated, but Lucho Diaz, Diogo Jota, Federico Chiesa, they all started. Chiesa was terrible in that game, right? Harvey Elliott is trying to compete and prove to Arne Slot that he belongs in the lineup. He didn't have a good game. Okay, the 17-year-old kid, he gets a pass. But at the back, it wasn't a good performance. Now, 2 things can be true. It was unacceptable, but it was a blessing in disguise. because ultimately what's important is the Premier League. So that's really the most important thing.
Yeah.
And like Stevie said, if Liverpool get a win against a resurgent Everton under David Moyes, then all the better for it, because the Premier League title, the Carabao Cup final, Champions League to a certain extent, those are massive priorities.
Yeah, ESPN FC tonight for full reaction to Everton against Liverpool. I want to talk about the chasing pack before we get on to last night's Real Madrid going to Manchester City and winning 3-2 Champions League tie. So right now, Janusz, we've got Liverpool probably winning the title. We've got Arsenal probably finishing second. So I don't want to do top four because it's basically the top five that's going to get into the Champions League next season, because England are pretty much odds-on certainties to get a fifth spot in the Champions League. So if we've got Liverpool and Arsenal, we need three more. Right now, it's Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, and Manchester City. What chance that stays those three joining Liverpool and Arsenal in whichever order, or Newcastle, Bournemouth, and maybe down even as far as Aston Villa? Any of those, Janusz, that you think might usurp any of the places 3, 4, and 5 right now?
Absolutely. If Newcastle plays the way they play right now with the relatively healthy squad that they have, they can definitely move in ahead of the likes of Chelsea at the very least, right? I mean, if you look at Isak and Anthony Gordon, I mean, that 1-2 punch, I don't know if it's as good as any, but almost, right? I mean, both players can decide matches on their own, and they very often do. They combine with each other very well. Joe Willock, you look at Guimaraes. I mean, the figure that he is in the center of the midfield. I mean, if you're talking about warriors, right? Those are the players that win you things. Just like Liverpool has three players that are maybe not the greatest of footballers, but when you put them all together and recognize what they do for your team, game in and game out, the consistency, Guimaraes is one of them, right? Fits on any team just about. So I can see Newcastle definitely moving up because they have the quality. I think they have a very, very good manager. They have the advantage of St. James's Park when they play at home. And I think right now, from the teams that you've mentioned, that's the first one that comes to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. Stevie, who finishes higher in the table at the end of the season, Chelsea or Manchester City?
Cool. Wow, that's a toughie.
It's not easy.
No, it's not, because there's no, to try and look at a positive from either of them is really difficult, because right now they look as though they're kind of lost, the two of them. You're not sure what you're going to get.
True.
I don't think you can separate them, quite honestly. I think it's a toss of a coin. Manchester City just look in games, for periods in games, look lost, look as though they're not sure. And Chelsea, without Cole Palmer flying, it doesn't look as though there's anybody else there that's going to grab this team by the scruff of the neck and do things, whether it's defensively in the middle of the park or going forward. So it's tough to come up with a reason why you would separate Man City and Chelsea. And quite frankly, I can't. I mean, maybe City will be going out of the Champions League, so maybe that changes some things and they may get some players back. So I think I've talked myself into saying Man City, but I don't think there's anything between them, quite frankly, right now.
Okay, let's move on to Manchester City in the Champions League. LME. I don't want you working for a Madrid-based organization. I don't want you working for a Manchester-based organization. I want you to be totally neutral and tell me, what was the biggest headline from that game last night?
The chaotic nature of these two teams when they always face each other. That star power. It was cinema. If you're a neutral, this is what you want. It was an energetic Etihad Stadium, the tifo with the Oasis quote of Rodri, Vinicius, Mbappe, Erling Haaland. I mean, it's everything that you wanted. Last year in 2024, the first leg of this particular matchup, obviously later into the competition, was my favorite game of the year, that 3-0. It was just wonderful to watch. And this game proved it. Now, granted, it was entertaining because there were so many errors all over the pitch. Manchester City, And I just, obviously the boys know this. You can go on ESPN and read it, watch it as well. The amount of errors that Manchester City continues to do. They were leading against Sporting and they lost that one. They were leading against Feyenoord and they drew 3-0. They were leading against PSG. They lost 5-1 to Arsenal. They led against Brentford and Bournemouth and they still lost that as well. So this amalgamation, of Manchester City's continued 75th minute onwards allowance of decapitation is just like so ridiculous to watch. So mentality becomes the key word for me here, because Real Madrid are like Jason from Halloween, man. You just can't kill them. Like, it doesn't matter how bad they play, in the split of an eye, they'll take advantage of you. And that's what we got. And I'm with Stevie. I think the favorite is Real Madrid in the second leg, but I wouldn't take anything away right now just because it's still a 1-goal separation. But it was cinema. It was great to watch for the neutral. That's definitely from my take.
Yeah, it's very rare you get a 4-all draw when defenses are on top in a game. But Janusz, Pep Guardiola was asked this question afterwards, and he was pretty vague in his answer, and basically admitted he didn't really know what the problem was when it comes to the last 15 minutes or so of games. So here's some results that I want to give you for Manchester City. After the Real Madrid game, obviously, when they were ahead and lost 3-2, the loss to PSG in January the 22nd, when they were 2-0 up, they lost 4-2. The 2-all draw at Brentford, they led 2-0 after 78 minutes. The 2-1 loss to Manchester United, they conceded in the 88th and 90th minute. And they were 3-0 up against Feyenoord, and they drew 3-3. We haven't even touched on Sporting Lisbon, leading 1-0 and losing 4-1. So what's the problem here, Janusz, for Manchester City in these late goal concessions?
Well, because sometimes the misconception is, how bad defensively they are. And, the loss of Rodri, I think we've talked about that enough. But I think it's the loss of form of some of the key players, or most of the key players. That's the biggest problem, because City controlled the game from the front, never from the back, right? I mean, we can talk about clean sheets they've had and all of that because, they were sitting back there smoking a cigar because everybody else had the ball. So if you think that Rodri was important, I mean, you guys tell me. Because, there was a point where Kevin De Bruyne was maybe the best player in the world. How far away is he from that? Bernardo Silva, I don't remember one good game from him this whole season. The injuries to the likes of Grealish and everybody else is an issue. They used to rest with the ball, and now they don't. Now, yesterday I watched that, and they were okay in the first half. But what surprised me the most was how much better Real Madrid were, because they were. It was for me, it was day and night, not just the amount of shots, but the amount of chances they created. I mean, Pep Guardiola said that, he worried about Real Madrid, their ability on the break. I don't know if that's why he had 5 central defenders there and he changed things around, but I don't know about you guys, but I mean, Real Madrid on the break were doing whatever they wanted, and not to mention the chances that they've missed, because they had so many. And we could even Mendy had chances, Mbappe 2 or 3 or 4. Bellingham had a header that he normally puts away. That game seemed close, and yet for me, it wasn't. It wasn't even close. And by the way, Real Madrid, that backline, right? I mean, they were missing everybody there just as well. So that's no excuse for Manchester City in any sort of way. What it shows you is how much further the front three are to the likes of even Haaland. I mean, remember how many goals he's had. Look how many he does this time around. And just everybody else. I mean, it's not just Rodri. Nobody is playing good football on that team. Nobody.
Stevie, does the chaotic nature of last night's game suggests if Manchester City can improve and not become as chaotic in the second leg, they still have a chance here?
No, absolutely not. There's not. I'm being honest. I think there was 10 minutes in the first half where City looked as though they had a little bit of control.
Yeah, it was towards the end of the half.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
but we're talking 10 minutes. The rest of it, I mean, at 2-1 with 10 minutes to go, I'm thinking, how are these 2-1 on? And then basically, because of all those games that you mentioned that they've given leads away, eventually that catches up with you mentally. And the harsh way to put it would be they bottled it. But the truth is, it's mental now. They get into a position, and too many of them are starting to think about what might happen. And we've lost so many. I mean, subconsciously in their brain. I mean, probably the 2 most experienced players that City have cost them the second and third goal. I mean, Edison, to Janusz's point not long ago, Edison, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, was considered one of the best goalies on the planet.
Yep.
Now Pep's actually tossing a coin whether he plays him or Ortega. Doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to stick or twist. And then Kovacic for the third goal. Honestly, is there a more experienced footballer on that field in both teams? What a horrendous attempt at a flick to poor Lewis, who doesn't have the experience to just go and pull somebody down or kick him, or makes a genuine attempt, but which he shouldn't have done. I mean, mentally, they're shot. They're absolutely shot. And when you're mentally shot, good luck going to the Bernabeu against a team that are probably going to make and create as many chances as they did away from home, never mind at the Bernabeu. So, yeah, I really don't give City a chance, quite frankly.
Janusz, how much blame should Pep Guardiola take? Because we're quick to praise him, rightly so, over what he's done. They've been brilliant, Manchester City, but he doesn't have much experience of when the going gets tough and what to do, because most of his managerial career has been a success. How much blame should he get for what is happening?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, we've been saying for how many years he's the best or one of the best in the world, and he's the chief. He's got to take responsibility. I suspect that he trusted his team 1 year too many, right? I mean, it had to be going through his mind that he's got to refresh that team, but it's so difficult to do. Stevie will tell you from his Liverpool days, when a team plays like they do and win just about everything, and they've done so much for you as a player, you always think that you can get something, that little bit extra, maybe that extra season. You don't want to be saying goodbye to players that perhaps don't want to leave just yet because they want to ride that wave of it. So, that happens. And ahead of the season, given the fact that there were Euros, a lot of players obviously started very, very late for them. I'm not sure if they had more players than any other team, but I'm sure there was a lot of them without the proper preseason and the rest and all that. And he's paying the price for it. He's trying every which way right now. But to me, he's getting lost a little bit with some of his comments that he controlled the game yesterday. And it's just, because of their mistakes that they lost. So I'm starting to wonder a little bit. But, I'm not going to give him a pass, praise him. We've praised him for how many years in different clubs in Europe. But, he's the boss right now. So he didn't get it right.
LME, is there any danger of Real Madrid being complacent now and perhaps thinking the tie's won? Because Janusz does, Stevie does, so why won't they?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it this season. It's not like, they're getting away with it. They're still leading La Liga, but, there's opportunity there, just on paper for City to do something. Real Madrid remain the favorites, but again, just like we were talking about the chances of winning the Premier League table. In this game, it's down to Real Madrid. If they go in there with the Madrid mentality, strong, exploiting the weaknesses of Manchester City, this is a Madrid win, because City just keep shooting themselves in the foot and they keep allowing teams to do anything against them, especially in the last 15 minutes. And when you're Real Madrid, they're going to completely take advantage of that. I still see Madrid as favorites in this game. Defensively, it's an issue. But by the way, here's the other thing. We keep talking about Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., of course, and Jude Bellingham. But now you're thinking about other players that are stepping up for Real Madrid. And that's something City just doesn't have. When Fede Valverde is giving you everything from a position that he normally doesn't play, City doesn't have that. When Rodrigo, who is such an unsung hero for Madrid, is absolutely creating havoc and so many opportunities that really should have been put away from a Madrid perspective, City doesn't have that. Right? And so this hunger, this desire, this mentality to win is not with Manchester City. And I don't think it's going to happen in a week. So now they're going to go to the Bernabeu, a place that's going to be so hostile. And look, last season, it was a great 3-3 result. I don't think that's going to happen this time around. And ultimately, I'll just finish with this. And we've talked about this for a while. Omar Marmoush came in January and other players, etc. I think there was a slightly a sign of arrogance for Manchester City that past summer, where they were thinking, you know what? Julian Alvarez, bye-bye. All right, don't worry. We don't need anybody. Erling Haaland can go by himself. De Bruyne, he's hurt. He's reaching that mid-30s. It's all right. Gundogan, the same thing. It's all right. We'll get it. You need to do something to re-alive your squad. And City didn't do it. They tried to do it in January, and now they're trying to play catch-up. And guess what? You're trying to play catch-up against Madrid now, and in the Premier League, it's not going to happen. Too late.
By the way, I want to take you back to April 2022. Not many people gave Chelsea a chance going to the Bernabeu, and they went into a 3-0 lead before eventually winning in extra time. Just to be the lone voice, not necessarily thinking that Manchester City will turn the tie around, but that they could, and that they're being written off too quickly. I wouldn't bet, Stevie.
Didn't think so.
No, I wouldn't bet. I'm clutching at straws as to why City still have an outside chance. And look, it's going to be very different. This City is very different from the City of previous years, and that's a problem. Stevie, do they need a new goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think so. Both Ortega and Edison look short. Edison sounded and looked like he was going to go to Saudi at the start of the season. Considering what's going on now, I wouldn't be shocked if he wanted to do that again this summer. So I would think so. Yeah, Ortega last year came in when Edison got injured, and all of a sudden we thought, wow, this guy's actually better than just a backup goalkeeper. Now we've got a real competition, and can they afford to let Edison go? Maybe they can, but both have regressed so much this season that, yeah, I think absolutely they should look and find another goalkeeper.
Janusz, the irony here is not lost on me. We've spoken about Liverpool playing a depleted side and not really giving too much of a bother that they've lost in the FA Cup, because they've got 3 other more important trophies for them to try and compete for. Manchester City only have the FA Cup if they get knocked out of the Champions League. So is this now their main focus of being successful against Plymouth and getting through? Because I can't believe we're even sitting here talking about this, that the FA Cup is now Manchester City's probably only chance of silverware this season.
Yeah, from that point of view, it probably is, because trophy is a trophy. But I think the main object is to be in the top 4. I mean, imagine Manchester City not being in the Champions League, right? I mean, if you Pep Guardiola, you Manchester City, you just forked out a lot of money in January as well for players, and you understand, goalkeeper and others, that you're going to have to spend a lot of money in the summer to turn this around, to bring Manchester City to what they were before. So money's there, so players will come for money. But I think the best players in the world are picky, right? If, for example, that rumor is true, and it should be, although it's for everybody, they need a Florian Wirtz. They need, again, 1 or 2 players that are top shelves in a way that Pep wants to play. And there are not that many when you play this intricate football where where you have to not only be able to play, but be intelligent enough to play that, right? How you bring in Florian Wirtz, where Bayern Munich wants him, Real Madrid wants him, probably Barcelona will take him, just about any team will take him, right? So to me, for Manchester City, the most critical point is they're going to write off this season, right? If they win the FA Cup, great, but what's that for Manchester City when you're used to winning everything in a season? I think the Champions League is the top priority.
Let's end today with predictions for today's game, and a reminder that ESPN FC straight afterwards will have full reaction to Everton against Liverpool and some of the Champions League games, including Celtic against Bayern Munich. So, Everton-Liverpool, start with you, LME. What you got for today's Premier League game at Goodison?
Is Trent Alexander-Arnold back?
He's back in training.
I mean, not that it makes a huge deterrent to me, but the one thing is that I'm looking at for this resilient Everton under David Moyes, the last Merseyside dive at a Goodison Park. Emotions are going to be running high, but I think ultimately, by the end of it, Liverpool will win. It'll be very tricky, but it'll be 2-1 to Liverpool.
Janusz.
Yeah, I mean, after the Plymouth game, right? I mean, a big point to prove, not just by the players, but for the manager as well, who mismanaged leaving some of these players at home, at least have them on the bench. So they're a threat, right, in the minds of the opposition. They absolutely have to, and I think they will.
So it was the Paul Mariner, Stevie Nicol derby at the weekend, and Plymouth coming out on top against Liverpool. But most of the Liverpool squad, Stevie, rested, didn't travel to the south coast. It's going to be a 9-point lead for your boys, or is it after today's game? What's your prediction?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going with LME. I think 2-1. They talk about the last derby at Goodison. We thought that about Everton in the FA Cup. The the last FA Cup game at Goodison, and they were absolutely horrendous. They've had a couple of good results. They scored some goals, but really they're not even close to Liverpool at the best. So this is all about Liverpool. I'm going to go 2-1, but yeah, Liverpool wins. I don't see anything else.
Okay, finally, before we go, last ever Merseyside derby at Goodison. Stevie Nicol, your top Merseyside derby memory from a Liverpool perspective against Everton when you were playing, what would it be?
Well, I scored in the cup. Scored in the cup. Scored the third goal with diving header. Doesn't get any better.
That was a 4-4 game, right?
No, don't mention the 4-4 game. That was at Goodison. No, it was Anfield 83-84.
Yeah, but I'm saying, no, what's your memory of Goodison? This is the last one at Goodison. So what's the best memory of Goodison from a Liverpool perspective?
Probably Rushy scoring 4 at Goodison.
Oh, yeah.
They beat that 5-0.
There you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much better than that. I think you'd take a scrappy 1-0 win today and a 9-point lead. There's no chance Liverpool will throw it away from here, is there? Bye for now.